Okay, we're live.
Jeez. Okay. Hi. Good morning. How you doing?
Good evening to you, Mr. Geller. I'm doing fantastic. How are you?
It's always great to be back here with you, Rabbi Akiva. Definitely a highlight of my week on the phone with you, as if we don't do that at any other time. But it really is great. All the schmooze is my relaxation of the week, if you can believe that. So
I don't believe it, even for a half a second.
Well, I've been told I don't really know how to relax, so it checks out. But it's great to be back here. On the Schmooze, we are so excited to be sponsored this week by the Torah Institute Beyond Campus, TIBC. Visit them at torahbeyondcampus.org. Rabbi Akiva, why don't you tell us a little bit about what they're doing and what they bring to the table?
No. Okay, fine. Since you asked nicely, Torah Institute Beyond Campus, a startup, if you will, and we love highlighting startups, especially in the Jewish world. Aryeh Freener, good friend, Rabbi Aryeh Freener, friend of mine going back, 2011, ever since he interviewed me for a job out in Cleveland. And he say what now?
Well then, that is news I did not know before.
Yeah, no, that's where that was my first intro to NCSY, was in Cleveland. And what people don't know is that because I grew up in Israel, so I never really knew anything about NCSY, didn't know anything about it, and I went to Cleveland for their regional Shabbaton. So my first look into the NCSY world was like, oh, a Shabbaton is supposed to have hundreds of kids and all the staff, and it's supposed to be pulling all the stops and be incredible and blow your mind out. And I didn't realize that there were smaller Shabbatons. So when I moved to NorCal, all my Shabbatons were regionals. We went to Tahoe, we went to Portland, we went to Santa Cruz, we went to we did these destination Shabbatons all the time, and which was pretty cool. My line back then was almost 100. We almost had 100 people at every Shabbaton, even though oftentimes it was maybe only 50 or 60. But I rounded up a lot. I round up a lot.
This close.
Numbers are such subjective things. Anyways, so Torah Institute Beyond Campus, Rabbi Aryeh Freener recognized that there is a gap for a lot of students who do not take a gap year to Israel. Daniel and I both recommend, as does Rabbi Freener, take a gap year, go to yeshiva, go to seminary, go to Israel, and learn Torah for a year. But if for some reason you don't, or can't, or for whatever reason you don't make it there, let's say there's a global pandemic, and then you go off to a campus that maybe doesn't have such strong Jewish infrastructure on campus, TIBC is exactly for you. It is built legitimately for you. They pair you up with mentors. They pair you up with a growth track. It's very much at your own speed, at your own pace, and at your own time. And the first month is absolutely free. Give you a chance to kind of try it out. That's right. Yeah, absolutely free.
Wow.
After the first month, you say, you know what, I like it, I'm going to continue. Or you can say, you know what, thank you so much. It was a great month, and no thanks for me. I believe that almost every single applicant after that first month stays on because it's extremely affordable and gives you massive benefits and allows you to keep your Judaism strong and passionate on campus.
Wow, really, really incredible. I feel like I wasn't thinking about this before, and it wasn't going to be a topic of the schmooze. But when we talk about people who just see a gap, last week, Rav Kelemer, who was the Rav of the West Hempstead community, passed away. And he's not a rabbi I was overly familiar with. But afterwards, all these stories of kindness started coming out, and just one came out in Tablet. And if you're not reading Tablet, I highly recommend. I'm sure there's something you can find on there all about news in the Jewish community. Focus on some Israel pieces, but definitely it's got a great community vibe. Barry Weiss, who's a former editor in the New York Times, writes there frequently. So I definitely, and it's free, all online. But there was an article talking about Rabbi Kelemer and how he innovated decades ago the idea of these Yachad Shabbaton. The Yachad, an organization, it's all about inclusion, bringing people together with those who have disabilities. And Rav Kelemers brought this idea that when they hosted this Yachad Shabbaton at the West Hempstead Shul, it was his idea that a Yachad member, someone who with Down syndrome or intellectual disabilities, would give the drasha, that they would give the drasha, and he gave them an aliyah, and this idea that it's more than just we're inclusive, but this ahava, this love that we have of everyone, and we see this not just in the Yachad world, but with Gerim. You know, we have an obligation to love converts, And then you get into these conversations about like, oh, they're not originally Jewish, like they're Jew by choice, whatever. How much do we love them? How much are accepting of them? All these things. And I think Rav Friedner also hits that on that, like gap year students, like, oh, they didn't take a gap year. They're missing, they kind of miss their opportunity. They're already on campus. The community might give up on them a little bit. And I think Rabbi Friedner comes along and says, no, they're just as much a part of our community. We need to service them more, give them the opportunity, and show the love that our community is to be known for. And it's unfortunate today's day and age that we have conversations that are not so much about acceptance, that they're kind of saying like they missed their chance, or because they're a little bit different. So that just all came to mind. I know it's definitely a little bit of a heavier topic. But
no, well, I'm gonna play off of heavy topics here. If Daniel and I, how we plan for the Schmooze is, okay, let's go with stream of consciousness. Okay, great. So I saw a Facebook post yesterday from a very conservative thinking friend of mine, very openly conservative views, and he posts things that he knows are going to be controversial to spark open debate, and happens to be the Facebook comments on his post are pretty normal and civil, which I think is terrible. He posted a thread. I don't know if it was his thread, a texting kind of back and forth. I don't know if it was his or someone else's that he reposted, but it was about abortion. Always a light topic, especially for men to discuss. Qualified, and I think and it was I'm not going to pull it up right now, but basically it was saying how like one person's view was saying every woman should be able to get an abortion no matter what the reason at any time. And he said, or he or whoever was said back to that person, what about a baby with Down syndrome? So if I see that my baby has Down syndrome, right, and in the ultrasound, should I be able to get an abortion? First of all, I'm curious. I'm going to pause if any viewers want to jump in and see, and if they have any comments. Always fun to get controversial on social media. No, I'm kidding. That's never fun. It's only fun if it's civil. And so the person said back, and so that person said back, like, yeah, raising a Down syndrome baby is very, very difficult, and not everyone wants to do that. I myself don't have any children, nor do I plan on having any children, but I would say that every woman should be able to get an abortion, is what this reply was. And the comment that ensued on Facebook was like, since when do Down syndrome babies, like, sorry, too hard, gonna just abort you? And we can have to, and it's funny because one of his comments there was like, I hope that we have a day that we never have to have any abortions, which from a Jewish perspective is actually not 100% accurate, because there are times where you would do an abortion either in the first 40 days, if there's extenuating circumstances. The Down syndrome baby, I don't imagine, would typically qualify. You obviously discuss things with your doctor, your rabbi, or whoever, if you have someone who helps you in terms of mentoring with mental health. There are times, though, let's say if someone is extremely destitute or physical life-threatening situations. Physical life-threatening situations can go all the way till 9 months, which, if you think about it, is more liberal than anything you read on the news. And so I say that, obviously you have to take a more nuanced approach. Typically black and white doesn't, cover all circumstances. But I think the point of and you talk about inclusion, like, oh, sorry, that one's too difficult. I'm out. And it's like, it goes back to cancel culture, where things are just too hard. I'm out, or I'm going to cancel you, or I'm going to cancel this, or I'm going to where we're losing more and more ability for nuanced dialogue in the world of social media and the world of debate nowadays.
Right. I actually had two things. One, if you haven't seen, there's a speech given by a man with Down syndrome in front of the United States Congress. His name is Frank Stevens.
Let's share that link.
Yeah. Well, we're gonna send a link, because it's definitely worth watching. Just to give you a great perspective on life. But I had this conversation a week ago where I was like trying to explain something, me being slightly politically active and engaged. I tried explaining an idea to which something somebody disagreed with, and they said, this is so classic, like male patriarchy, that massive, like you're mansplaining. Like, I don't know what that is. I'm sorry. Then why don't you explain it to me? Whatever. And because you're a man, you think like you can explain in a condescending way and talk down to people to try and prove that your point is correct. And no, I would have the same conversation regardless of your gender. I don't care about you. That makes no difference. They're like, no, see, that's what you thinking that means that like that doesn't make sense, number one. And number two, like, is there a male in the room that wants to have the conversation? Because I'll have the same exact conversation.
Is there a male? Anyone? My kingdom for a male.
Like this, I don't get this. It's like the things where instead of talking about like grandiose ideas and then also walking away, it's like I'm friends with. It's interesting. Facebook thinks I'm a Republican and Twitter thinks I'm a Democrat. So I like it must mean that I'm doing my job well.
So you've only been canceled on one of them, is what you're saying. But
yeah, clearly. So like interesting seeing these people that comment and then like certain people are just like, if you're voting for President Trump, like we should not be friends anymore on this platform, or like I don't want you in my life. So I commented like, seems slightly excessive. Like doesn't.
Do you know what's crazy? When people ask me about politics and I say I'm not really into politics, that's not an acceptable answer anymore. Like that used to be fine. Like 5 years ago, like, oh, okay, that's cool. He's into other things. Like now it's for some reason everyone has to know everything and feel very deeply passionate about politics. I don't feel very deeply passionate about politics. I feel deeply passionate about change, about truth, about leadership, about pizza, like important things. Speaking of important things, I think, in terms of like filling the gap and leaving a legacy, I felt that this was extremely important for me to share. I'm going to be sharing it now. Here we go. Oh no, I just realized, what if it doesn't share? Oh, here we go. Share audio. This is an extremely important video for the internet. And I feel like a lot of people might have seen it.
The name of the ship was a belly of tea. The winds blew up her bow, up down or below, my billy boys blow.
What am I watching?
Hey, the wellerman come to bring us sugar and tea and rum. One day when the tonguing is done, we'll take our leave and go. Soon may the wellerman come to bring us sugar and tea and rum. One day when the tonguing is done, we'll take our leave and go.
Incredible. A work of art. This is trending right now on TikTok.
Okay.
I'd like to give a shout out to Mayor Freund for introducing me to this video, and it has been playing in my head nonstop since.
Wow. That was inspiring. I don't get it. It's not. I don't have TikTok, so that could be.
I don't have TikTok either. I just thought it was really, and I thought the bass there was incredible, and it just went viral. And it's just, I love the Irish culture. Not that I know much about it, but just kind of like that vibe. I just feel like they're always singing and dancing and drinking frothy beer out of large tankards all the time. I might be playing Dungeons and Dragons too much. I might be mixing up medieval history and Ireland, and even though that video is from Scotland. Moving right along.
Okay. Wow. Okay. I really don't have words for this, so you just keep going.
Shout out also goes to Daniel Schweig, because I told him I'd give him a shout out, and he is a listener, an avid listener. What's the word I'm looking for?
Avid fan is fine. Avid listener.
A dedicated listener. I actually saw something interesting from the Pew research. That in an unfortunate piece of news, the U.S. has world's highest rate of children living in single-parent households.
Ooh.
Yeah.
I get the feeling that the United States just keeps like topping all the lists you don't want to be on.
You mean bottoming? Right, exactly. You don't want to be on.
Like, let's talk about our lack of literacy rate. Let's talk about our like highest rate of incarceration. When it comes down to it, we don't really make any good lists.
Well, it's funny. I always say that I feel like I came to America when I was just a wee lad of 25. When I moved here from Israel, obviously I grew up in America before that, but I really grew up largely. I got older. A lot of people argue that I never grew up, but I got older. For many years in Israel. I was hoping you'd spit out the water. No. Darn you and yourself.
USA, baby. USA.
Oh, cool. Is that from before?
Great water bottles.
Is that from before 2020? I don't know if you just saw the recent research that came out. In America, it creates the worst water bottles globally. It was in the Pew study. Just kidding. But, I felt like America focused on two things, and I used to talk about this all the time. America focuses on entertainment, right?
Okay.
So it's Hollywood, it's the movies, it's the relaxation, right? It's all what it's about. Like, as coming here from like very much outside eyes, like when I would talk to teens, and talk to people, it was all about like Saturday and Sunday and movies and TV, and it was all about college. It wasn't even almost as much as about your career. It was like about college, I guess, because I was in the high school, middle school, and high school space. But coming from Israel, it was not like that. Like there wasn't like the feeling that permeated every single conversation. And I think that like a lot of America's values have been spiraling downward because our values are coming out of one place, and that's Hollywood. And Hollywood is not known for its extremely high value. Yeah, think about what your upcoming generation, okay, teens and young adults, they're gaining their values online. They're not getting it in the classrooms. They're not getting it as much in the family units as much as they used to, for sure. They're getting it online. They're getting it from movies. And their stars, the people that they're looking up to and who they'll follow and retweet, etc., are celebrities. And these aren't, they'll sooner retweet a post from Taylor Swift about the Middle East than they'll post from any professor.
Right. Right, and Taylor Swift being the obvious expert on all matters Middle East related.
100%. I mean, she is the upcoming delegate for the United States of America to Israel and Dubai. So that's a joke, ladies and gentlemen. So my point is, you're writing stuff down, Daniel. So I know you want to say something, but my point is that like our entire culture in America is focused on this one tiny city of Hollywood, and I very strongly disagree, I think, with with a lot of the values that go down in Hollywood. So I don't know if American values are going to go back in the upswing until that piece gets broken.
Right. I mean, it's unfortunate. I was actually just writing up a shir on the difference between like celebrities and genuine leadership, because people are far more likely to follow celebrities and their guidance than those than genuine leaders. And it's difficult for especially high school and college students to identify what genuine leadership is. A study done a couple years ago found that the overwhelming majority of American youth want to think Generation Z, the kids in high school and college right now, would prefer to be YouTube influencers, as opposed to the overwhelming majority of like Japanese youth who wanted to be astronauts. They believed in this altruistic, I mean, there was a time my generation, I'm a millennial.
I don't know if you my personal Instagram story yesterday was my 3-year-old standing up in a chair and waving a large, like a paper towel roll, but it was for wrapping paper, waving this other thing saying, "I'm going to be an astronaut matzo ball," which for me as a Jewish dad put together both incredible aspects of Jewish culture, the matzo ball, and astronaut, career advancement for women. It was a beautiful moment.
Yeah, I'm sure the matzo ball part really, really got you. Threw me for a loop, but I'm sure that brought a tear to your eye. There was also one other thing I was thinking when, we're so quick, the noise of America, like I'll bash America all day, and that is a freedom granted to me by the Bill of Rights. So I'm on a serious note, I'm tremendously
you're
blessed.
in Israel. You don't like it when Americans criticize Israel. Should you be criticizing America now?
I'm sorry. What?
Wait, why do you have that?
American citizen.
Why is that?
Don't even. No, I keep my important things close by.
Like, are you ever on other calls that you need to whip out your passport? You're like, don't worry, I'm a citizen.
That's right. I think we're finding I am very well equipped at this desk, so don't mess. But on a
important part that I always keep close by. These two things are extremely important to me, and I always have them wherever I go.
Oh shoot! Where I just took mine off because of the giraffe. I can't match.
You never know when you're gonna need a giraffe, man.
Okay, that aside, well, I will bash.
I can't hear you. Can you say that again?
This is a tremendous waste of our time. But I'll bash America endlessly. When you think about, I genuinely believe that America is the greatest force for good in the world, regardless. Like I just this past week, I got my Pfizer vaccination. What up?
Congratulations!
Thank you so much. It's great
You get one shot. Do not miss your chance to blow. This opportunity comes once in a lifetime.
Okay, great. I can feel the super strength coursing through my veins, and it's very much to the greatness of the capitalist society. We got it. It's a capitalist society that fosters innovation and advancement. And I was just thinking what I was writing down. The former National Cancer Institute director, Samuel Broder, once said, if it were up to the NIH, the National Institute of Health, to cure polio, you would have the best iron lung in the world, but no polio vaccine. And that's very much like, think about it.
What do you mean by that?
So polio used to attack like the nervous system, right? So a way of like keeping people alive was attaching them to iron lungs. So he's saying, like, if you left it up to the government entity, you would have the best iron lung in the world, but you wouldn't have any cure for polio. So, and that's like, I get into this conversation probably every week with people in America. They're like, oh, big pharma, this became a big progressive talking point that you need to break up these major like pharmaceutical companies. But I love big pharma. Like,
you said it here live. Tell us more.
Think about communist Russia. Has communist Russia ever come out with groundbreaking medical advancements that's used all over the world? Like they claim they do. But realistically, it's nowhere close to what big pharmaceutical companies are offering to the world. You have Pfizer, Moderna, AstraZeneca is finishing up their testing and their approval through the FDA. Like all these companies, because we believe in free markets and we believe in the greatness of innovation and advancement. That's what America really brings to the table. And while it's easy to get caught up in the noise, and this is very much a social media issue, where all these people who have no knowledge on anything will just complain. It's like, how often do you see people that I'm sorry, I can't hang out tonight. I can't be social because I'm going to fight with people on Twitter, because that's a good use of your time. So that's it's easy to get caught up in the noise here. Also, by the way, people will start like nonstop talk about all the challenges of Israel and all these all these speculations of terrible things Israel does. I walk outside my door and I travel the country, and at least when we're not in a lockdown, and it's a great place, but if you were to just pay attention to the news, you would think war zone 24/7, 365 days a year.
You would think the same thing in America. If you read the news now, right, you could always focus on the small parts, but 99% of a lot of everything for everyone, say everybody, but for the majority of people, goes pretty well. Not for everyone. Obviously, there's oppression for some people, poverty for some people, and lots of challenges for other people. Like there are. I'm not saying that there aren't. But by and large, America is still a pretty good country to live in, and Israel is still a 100% country to live in.
100%.
Going back to Big Pharma for a second, I can't say that I'm one of the people who is very knowledgeable about this, but about same thing with big tech. I will say the following point. I think we'll close with this. We'll do the Jewish question. You know what? Actually, this will be my Jewish question. Let's close. What was the Jewish question from last week?
Oh, every week.
Yeah, but every week we remember before the show to look it up. You did it. Here's what we're gonna do. I'm just gonna say the question for next week.
For this week, we'll post the answer. Wow, this is embarrassing.
It's innovative. I like the word innovative instead of embarrassing. It's not embarrassing because that was an entire week ago, and you and I have had about 12 meetings since then about other things. And so
remind me.
Here's my question: is there a mitzvah to buy, if you can buy something at a local store, let's say a local Jewish store, right, a small business, versus buying it on Amazon? Versus buying it on Amazon, okay? Do you have an obligation to buy something locally, which means you have to go out in your car, go to the store, buy it, bring it back home, right? It's so many arduous steps. Maybe even it's a little bit more expensive, right? 'Cause it's a small business, right?
Okay.
Where does that obligation start? Where does that obligation end, if at all? That's my question for next week. Thank you, everyone.
Love it. Thank you, Rabbi Akiva. Thank you to PIBC for sponsoring. Always a pleasure schmoozing with all of you. Check out the links. Follow us on Instagram, the Schmooze IG. Our links are on our Facebook page, on our YouTube, youtube.com/the Schmooze. Join us, write to us, let us know what you think, what you want to hear about, and we cannot wait to schmooze with you next week.
Make sure also to follow us on Instagram because we're starting to post a bunch of short kind of inspiring or
I just said this.
Okay, but you
I
didn't.
just said
Okay, you know what? You know what? We'll just high five.
what?
Just
Okay.
3, 2.
Why did you say what?
I don't know.